Happiness and the City. This is Barbara. Um, Today, I'd like to focus our attention on a very important concept, and that is concept of direction. There's a lot of conversation today about all kinds of ways in which people interact with each other, but there's very little discussion and understanding of the very concept of direction, because certain things can develop over time, require schedules, require planning, and rarely things happen instantaneously, and that outcome is created without any direction to them. So it's a very important concept to think about. It's a very complicated concept. Let's start with a basic definition that is in Google Dictionary. Okay, right here. Direction is a course along which someone or something moves, like she set off in the opposite direction. So it's let's look at the first definition, that direction is a certain course, and we need to develop understanding of direction in our daily life at all levels, from personal life to cities and regions, countries, the world. We need to have that concept, because a lot of what is happening today is without any sense of direction. Even when you look at the financial world, it seems to be depending on some daily situation in Wall Street. And it's kind of crazy, frankly, because it doesn't have any stability and tranquility of the right direction. So we have to think a lot about applications of that concept of direction to all kinds of situations in our daily life. The part of this definition first is a course, and then moving. The outcomes in our lives often depend on which way we are moving, which direction we are moving. People can be moving in the wrong direction, and then they would end up in a ditch or in the wrong place. So we have to understand how to connect direction in everything we do with the right course. Many of you go to college. You know that you have to take the whole course on a certain subject in order to get proficiency in the topic. So there's a course of many things the teacher teaches you. There are all kinds of books you have to learn from. There's a lot of knowledge you need, and towards the end of the course you become proficient in the subject. But during the course you learn things, you make mistakes, you assume that you know something when in fact you are in error. So it's a process of going in the right direction in order to achieve knowledge in a certain area. And I think that we need to understand that concept in social media today, because there's a lot of expectation that certain outcomes will happen instantly, or somebody would make a mistake and the entire achievement of that person or group of people is cut off, as if they had no more opportunities to change direction. So a better response would be to see if something is going in the right direction, but a person or group of people made certain mistake, and the right way is to bring an educational direction and to show how to do it in the right way. It's a much more humane way, and it would also be financially good, because then platforms would not unnecessarily lose people that somehow didn't fit in a certain pattern of expectation. So we need to develop direction in all social media that allows for learning, allows for redemption, so to speak, allows for making it right when mistakes happen, and that is possible if we understand that the uh, goal would be to move people in the right direction. So going into a way in which we have development of a sense of direction makes instant negative decision against somebody, a group of people, irrelevant, because then they would be part of ways to put those people back on track, so to speak. In other words, just because someone made a mistake and wrote a stupid tweet or post, it doesn't mean that that person should be eliminated. It just means that whatever that post was or that tweet was not going in the right direction, and then the person should be put back into the right way. And I think that would create a sense of safety in everybody, a sense of safety and security, that emotional engagement into platforms would not be suddenly interrupted. In other words, if someone ends up in a ditch with some tweet or post, it doesn't mean that car wreck, so to speak, would not be put back on the road and keep moving forward. That would only be impossible if the car becomes a wreck. But sometimes people end up in a ditch and nothing happens to a car. It happened to me years ago during a snow day, and my car ended up slipping on the slippery road on a ditch, and then a wonderful truck driver came in and helped me pull it out, and then I kept going, and I ended up achieving the goal of my direction, visiting Philadelphia. Out of all places on earth, I ended up in that ditch mishap while thinking about the city of brotherly love. So my focus was on love. And if someone mean and nasty would show up, they would just attack me, they would probably pull the car to some storage. It would be just a ridiculous situation, when in fact it was just caused by a little slip on the road. I followed the directions of the road and everything was perfect, but it was just a weather situation that caused that. So I remember this event in my life as this most wonderful memory of wisdom, that people on the road helped me get back on the road and keep going, and I had wonderful 4 days in Philadelphia. And that's how we should do with our platforms. If someone makes a slight mistake, we should just help that person get in the right direction and move along. And I think that would create a wonderful sense of safety and security, that would create trust. Because if we think about safety and then make people fearful, then it's a spirit of fear. And as those who read the Bible know, God didn't give us spirit of fear, but spirit of love, spirit of power, and spirit of sound mind. And that means that when we apply the three spirits, spirit of love, spirit of power, and spirit of sound mind, we can maneuver ourselves with our own power, sometimes with help from other people, in the direction we are going, if it's the right direction. This also means that we have to develop a sense of what is the right direction, and that takes a lot of thinking. And the direction shouldn't be to cut people off, but to help them find themselves in the course of the right direction. And that requires a lot of sophisticated thinking. And I recommend that we restore that kind of thinking in all executive power, whether it's chief executive officers or authorities in governments or courts. We should have wisdom restored to all authority organizations, because authority should connect with trust of the right direction, and then help if that right direction somehow is interrupted. We need to restore a sense of safety in those who develop courses of action that move someone or something in a certain direction. But those people should also be able to inspire that sense of safety and security in those they direct. So I encourage you to think about this, because it creates a certain purpose. And we know that in geography we have to have maps. In many buildings, you have to have a map. You have to know where you're located in a building. And in our lives, we need to have a certain map too, whether it's within our own hearts or in connection with those people who are around us, because without it, things can end up in the wrong direction. And the wrong direction would mean that the group of people or those who get in the wrong direction have no redemption, because they can never really feel anything right on that road of wrong direction. The remedy for that situation is to stop, reconsider the direction, and go in the right direction. So this is a different issue. It's not a situation in which just a person wants to make something right while going in the right direction. Going in the totally wrong direction is a situation in which the remedy would be to come back to the right direction or develop a completely new direction. I was telling you many times how God transferred and transformed my thinking and direction of my life by miraculous healing of Christmas Day 1998. This was so powerful, and in God's wisdom, it happened actually on Massachusetts Avenue. So it happened on the road, and it remedied um, deformity in my body after a car accident. And the car accident was happening when I was actually going in the right direction, but something bad happened. But after this accident, all kinds of things were happening around me that taught me the consequences of what happens when we go in the right direction and then something irreparable happens. And that taught me that in such a situation we have to not abandon our faith, that we have to ask God to make things right. And I did. And I prayed about 3 years for this miracle. And when He gave me this miracle, He revealed to me that the reason I was not able to get back to the right shape is because of error in my thinking around authority. Because I was born in royal nation, Poland, a nation that received royal crown from God in 1025, Anno Domini, though the baptism of the country happened in 966. But it took all of those years between 966 and 1025 to receive the royal crown. And Poland got royal crown from then Emperor of Rome, Roman Emperor, in Constantinople. And eventually it was recognized by the Roman Catholic Pope. But the crown came directly from God through the Roman Emperor. And when I was growing up, we were taught to ignore it as something that was just in the past, and we should forget the past. And God said that all the time I was going in the right direction with my life, but by ignoring the inheritance and heritage of Poland's Roman crown, I ended up in a tragedy with no hope of ever recovering. And I remember that moment, beautiful snow day on Christmas Day 1998, and I acknowledged this to God, that to ignore the power of Poland's Roman crown was my great error. In that moment I was miraculously healed. 21 years and I'm walking on two straight legs. The lame leg that was hindering my motion got healed miraculously because God helped me to bring in the missing link in the direction of my life. So I think that many of us are in that situation that we actually are doing the right things, but something is missing in the way we understand the way remedies can be applied when some tragedy happens or when an error happens. We are looking in wrong places, and then the remedy never comes. My situation, I got the grace from God and understanding, and I got healed. Some people have difficulty connecting to truth that comes from direction of God and God's ability to remedy and redeem an error in the right direction. And this is something we have to understand very powerfully. For instance, America is going in the right direction, but many things are happening that create a lot of problems, a lot of tragedies, a lot of unnecessary wars. And the reason is because people in the authority in America blocked receiving remedies for that kind of error in authority direction from God. And I think that's an error. We should learn how to do it. For instance, George Washington, who was instrumental in creating the statehood of the United States of America, he knew how to receive direction from God. And we have that in American heritage. We have to connect to it, because a lot of what is happening today is frustration of joy and happiness because people are trapped in errors that can happen because of all kinds of matters around destiny, and then they don't know how to get out of this, and they think that they have to change direction in order to get out of a difficult situation. But this has to be clearly discerned, because if we are going in the right direction and something bad happens, we shouldn't change the direction. We should make whatever that error was right. And it is a very important thing to understand. I'll continue talking about those matters in next shows, because we have to have a different way of thinking while repairing some errors within the context of right direction. Some people get into this situation that something bad happens in their lives, and they change the direction, and then far worse things happen. So we have to understand this also in the context of politics. Some people want to change the direction of a country when in fact the country is going in the right direction. And we have to become sophisticated about that topic, because if a country is going in the right direction, some group of people come in and push it in the wrong direction, then the masses would be overwhelming and beyond repair. And to finish this particular show, I wanted to look at the second part of this definition of direction as the management or guidance of someone or something. Under his direction, the college has developed an international reputation. Really wonderful thing. So here we have the second part of this particular definition, in which direction is connected to management or guidance of someone or something. Sometimes it is a corporation, that would be something. Sometimes it's chief executive officer of a corporation. Sometimes it's management of a group of people. So they have to be focused on the right direction too, because if they end up going in the wrong direction, then the whole company or country will end up in a ditch and with no hope. And I think that we need some sort of language to talk about it, because we need to develop a sense of safety in the direction we are going. So if we have the right direction, the feeling of safety, the sense of safety, continues even if some bad things happen. But if a company, a country, or the world go in the wrong direction, then there is no remedy. The sense of safety will never be restored, because it cannot be restored if there is no right direction developed. And that's what is happening a lot with certain situation around our finance. In America, we are lucky because we have on our money, in God we trust. In other words, I always ask God for direction of American money because of that. And God responds to this because he's king. He runs his kingdom, so he knows about value and money as king. And God's direction of finance and money is connected with love because God is love. So we have to continue that way, because if people went to the wrong direction, like many people on cryptocurrencies are removing God from this, they will end up in the wrong direction without God, and it will not end well. So one of the ways in which we need to connect internet direction of money is to connect it to In God We Trust, and then God will direct and give us guidance.